send it to him in the next day or so, so that he can present the same set of slides I'm going to be presenting in Tempe. But you're going to want to see this, George, because it is astonishingly compelling. Compelling information that no one has seen or put together before. The other thing I'm going to present is the connection between Kennedy, NASA, and 2012. The sci-fi special was wonderful, except it was kind of like a Chinese takeout dinner. After the show, you want more. And all the stuff that I wanted to tell.
And you're hungry 2 hours later.
Yeah. So I'm going to have a chance in Tempe to show the rest of the story and to connect dots, showing that the probable reason now why Kennedy was killed has to do somehow with his knowledge and preparations for 2012. Now, it's really interesting that the day after this special aired, to very high numbers,
right,
suddenly NASA comes out officially attacking everyone looking at 2012.
That's true. Right after.
That's bizarre. Because in Washington, and I've run this by a few people, in the last couple of days, the standard technique in Washington, when you're confronted by someone who is not towing the party line, you ignore them. You isolate them. You put them out to pasture. You do not acknowledge. You do not. That's why there's been so much discussion about the president mentioning people like Rush Limbaugh or Fox News and saying these are the guys that are not on our team, because you don't do that. The normal way you deal with problems in Washington is you ignore them.
You ignore them. They go away.
So for NASA, to the day after the sci-fi special, to set up a website attacking all of us researchers looking at the possibility. Now,
by the way, how do they even know you're right or wrong? They don't.
How can they?
Exactly.
Unless they have information.
Unless they know something else.
And that's what I'm going to lay out in Tempe. The rest of the story.
You think they do?
We've got data. You know I'm a data-driven guy.
All right, but your documentary, what I saw with you with your laptop and your tuning fork and all that, talking about torsion physics, you think we're headed for a disaster?
No.
That was my interpretation.
Well, but see, that's what
that's
sci-fi,
the way Lester Holt.
Sci-fi deliberately set up that. That's television. Come on, guys. Television needs drama. It needs bodies. It needs blood. It needs, if it bleeds, it leads. It needs that catastrophe. And, of course, with Roland Emmerich playing his wonderful role tonight and that film, how could they not go there?
So you're saying no catastrophe?
No. What I'm saying is we don't know. I am looking at the Mayan calendar and the derivative calendars, and every one of these ages does not end well. That's all right. That's fact. That's historical fact.
Right.
Yeah. John Major Jenkins is wrong, because these calendars that are derivative of the Mayan calendar all end, like, for instance, the big Aztec sunstone, which Barack Obama, by the way, made sure he was photographed in front of when he went to Mexico City. That is a history lesson of the 5 ages of the Aztecs, which is really the 5 ages of the Mayan calendar. Every one of those ages, or they call them worlds, ended with human beings not happy.
A calamity.
A calamity, yeah. So with that as an historical precedent, you have to ask yourself, what did they know and when did they know it, and should I be trying to figure out a mechanism for 2 reasons. One is it's nice to know if something's going to happen so you can maybe get prepared. If it's no more than, kissing your loved ones goodbye. But number 2, is it possible one can intervene and with physics and technology change that which the Maya could not change and had to accept? So I went to Mexico and I went to Guatemala on NBC's Nickel, measuring the torsion physics to see if, in fact, the Maya might be onto something.
Well, you were picking up some strange readings.
Oh, my God. The one thing I kind of fault Rebecca Ratliff, who was the producer, she didn't show the readings. You've got to see these readings. I'm going to show them in Tempe. I actually made up slides with the pyramid supered and all that, nice graphics, so that people could see these astonishing readings. What the readings show is that the little tuning fork in that watch went nuts. I think the lowest reading was something like 14 cycles per second. Remember, the standard is 360.
Right.
And the highest was almost 1,000.
Jeez.
As I'm walking.
Is this what you brought down to Homestead, Florida?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. This is what we used to measure Coral Castle.
All right.
And we've measured alignments. Remember, in the physics, people joke at me, you're all, alignments. Alignments are critical because alignments are geometry. Geometry has to do with waves, and it's the interference pattern of these waves which can either change mass or inertia, and which, when you're sitting on a planet which is rotating, if the inertia mass of the Earth were to change because of alignments, we might have a very bad hair day. So I'm looking at a physics to see if behind the mythology of 2012 there is something, A, we should be concerned about, and B, something we could do something about. And then I found that the U.S. government apparently has been on this since 1947.
With a special department?
Well, I have intel friends who say the CIA does have a 2012 desk. They
Interesting.
told me that.
That is
There's
fascinating.
an official 2012 desk of the CIA, which are probably the same folks that then called over to NASA and said, good God, get these guys off the screen.
Yeah.
We don't want people paying attention.
Yeah. Well, it's too late for that.
It's definitely too late. So my model was if the Mayans knew something because they had pyramids that resonate with this physics, and there are various ways you can tell that they could know this, it could affect the actual stability of the planet itself under certain conditions.
When will you know if you're right?
2012?
Sometime in 2012?
No, we're going to do more. Hopefully we're going to do more with NBC and Sci-Fi. Although I must say they've been incredibly silent since the special. I had a vice president, send me an email, say, I'm going to send you the numbers right away. I have not been able to find out official numbers.
I sent you numbers.
You sent me the numbers. Sci-Fi didn't. I am wondering, because we had a segment in the show, remember? Ken White and his father, Maynard White, who was head of the 72nd, 46th.
I love that. That was a good segment, by the way.
Well, because it's all real.
Yeah.
It turns out that back in 1947-48, when Maynard White, who was head of the 1st Strategic Air Command in Alaska, facing off against the Soviets, figuring out how to fly B-29s over the North Pole without magnetics, without compasses, they found that the Earth's magnetic field was moving like a bat out of hell, going from where it had been for hundreds of years, all the way headed right like a homesick, puppy, headed for the North Pole. So the Pentagon set up this team, this Tiger team, headed by Dr. Paul Seipel, who was a big polar guy back in the 50s, 60s, who did experiments at RAND showing the Earth can undergo major instabilities if the magnetic pole and the rotational pole coincide. And then it all went black. And Maynard White and his son, Maynard is no longer with us, but his son is very much with us, they wrote a book called World in Peril, which Robin got me as a Christmas present. I still don't know why she knew enough to get this book, because buried in the middle of the book was the story of what this reconnaissance squadron found as part of a physics that connects into the Mayan mythology a la 2012 and what the planet might be doing. Anyway, bottom line, we didn't see it in the special because there's only 2 hours. If you come to Tempe, I'm going to show you what you didn't see there.
Up next, Friday the 13th, open lines. I'm going to do a trilogy hour as well. I'm going to keep Robin and Richard. If you have a question for them, that's the time to do it as well. But I've got Friday the 13th, open lines next on Coast to Coast AM.